It's so nice to see all your lovely faces. I'd love to introduce my friend Greg. He is just super, well, he's this AVM superhero, so that works out great. I'm so excited to hear him speak. He is definitely one of my absolute favorite interviewers. I think he just does such a fantastic job. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great conversation today. Greg, I think you have a hard stop around 7:50, if I'm
45.
7:45. Greg has a hard stop. So I'm going to pass it on over to him to introduce himself and we'll get going.
Well, thank you, Ella. Julie, thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you for everybody coming on. Like Ella said, my name is Gregory Graham. Also on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, I'm known as AVM Superhero. I do caregiver baskets across the United States. Each month, I give a caregiver a basket to show my appreciation for what they have done for us. I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now, so I think I've had 30 right now, caregiver baskets I've been giving away. I also do 2 podcasts or video interviews, one on Instagram and one also on YouTube. One is called Death Taught Us How to Live, and the other one is called You're Too Young to Have a Stroke. But today, what I want to talk about is releasing those excuses that you have for recovery. And I just want to remind you and let you guys know that I'm not a professional. I do have my PhD in stroke recovery, but that's about it. So everything I'm talking to you about is from my personal experience and what works for me. You might not agree with it, you might agree with it, but all I ask you to do is to sit down and to think about what I'm telling you here, because it might be beneficial for you in the long run with your stroke recovery or your brain trauma recovery. So with that being said, I have a quote that I want to give you guys. A loser mentality is a complainers reality. And what do I mean by that? If you're constantly complaining and saying stories to yourself about how bad life is, and you've been dealt a bad hand because you had a stroke and now you have parts of your body is not working properly anymore, that is basically a loser mentality. You're not going to get what you want within your life if you keep on doing that to yourself. So there's a couple of things I want to bring to your attention that help me move forward from my stroke recovery. As we first started, we talked about how our day is going on a scale of 1 to 10. I told you that my day is a 10. And the reason why I say that my day is a 10, because I don't really concentrate too much on my physical deficits anymore. I think about my mental and my spiritual awareness. And that has brought me to another peak in my life that I didn't know before I had my stroke. But after I had my stroke, once I understood this, my life got so much better. So let me get into what I'm talking about. There's the loser mentality, or the loser mindset, versus the go-doer mindset. Now, for me, the loser mindset, or the woe is me mindset, is always 3 things that these people actually do. One is always tell your stroke survivor story over and over again. 2 is to blame others for things that's happening to you within your life. And 3, complaining. So let me break down each one of these, and maybe this might be happening to you. Maybe this could be slowing down your progress for actually becoming stronger in your recovery, or maybe not, but something that you might want to take notice of. So the first thing I was talking about to you guys is telling your story. I know for me, before I got into support groups or dealing with people that had strokes, I used to tell my story a lot. But only thing that was actually benefiting is for me to feel a place of complacency so people could feel sorry for me. And that was the only thing that I was telling my story for. I kept on saying it, kept on saying it, kept on saying it. And then I started to realize if I didn't get the reaction that I expected, I got upset because people wasn't responding the proper way, saying, oh, I'm so sorry for you. oh, what can I do for you? And I felt like the victim. And I didn't realize that something else was happening to me as well. Whenever I was telling my story, my body couldn't tell that it was the past or it was actually the present. So I was traumatizing myself each and every time I say a story about what happened to me, or if I say that I am worthless or say that I am stupid. Every time I say those particular stories to myself, my body's reacting to it. Case in point, does anybody in here have any type of phobias, scared of snakes, rats, bugs? Just raise your hands if you guys are. Okay, with those phobias, nothing is actually happening to you. But as soon as your mind starts thinking about it, you start feeling chills. You might start freezing up. You might have high blood pressure from it, but nothing is actually happening. So just imagine by the words that you're saying each and every time, I am stupid. Oh, I'm not fast enough. I'm not pretty enough. What do you think your body's doing to itself? It's receiving that and it's actually destroying your body. Like we as stroke survivors, we always tell each other, hey, we can't stress each other out. Don't do that. Don't put yourself in any type of situations, but you're doing it to yourself by saying it with your words because your body doesn't understand. It just receives the instructions from you and is actually adapting to it. So be careful with that. The next thing is talking about blaming others. Take responsibility for whatever happens to you. I know Coco, I know Ella, and most of myself, I'm not sure anybody else on here, are all AVM survivors. The talk around town in the medical field is that either you just got it somewhere or you was conceived with it. So if I wanted to blame anybody, I could blame my mom and my dad for making me being born with a AVM. Then I could be mad at them for the rest of my life. But what's the purpose of that? What is that going to do? I have to take accountability. Okay, this is the situation I've been put in, and there's a reason why I've been put in this situation. Now it's time for me to make something happen after this. Instead of being so upset with somebody that had nothing to do with my situation, just a freak act of nature that happened to us. So that's what you have to think about as well. Stop blaming other people for things that's not happening for you. Your doctor misdiagnosed you, or you're not getting the proper medical attention. Okay, that could be happening, but what are you doing to move forward? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. And the last thing I wanted to bring out with that is making excuses. Now, this is something that you guys probably don't even really recognize that you're doing, but you are doing it. And that brings me into something else as well. The biggest word for a person that makes excuses, do you guys know what that word is? Does anybody know what the word is for a person that makes excuses all the time? Any clue?
Victim? Victim?
No, that's good, but that's not what they actually say. They don't say I'm a victim.
Wow.
What do they actually say? They use the word but. They use the word but or can't. They use those actual words to actually say that they are not able to do something. I could come to you and say, you know what, Julie, you need to do this, that, and another so you can be stronger again. And then the first thing you say back to me is, yeah, great, that sounds great, but I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, then you're right, you can't do it because you said it. So that's what we have to really be conscious of. And that's another word I want you guys to understand, conscious. How many of you are actually conscious of what you do each and every day? Some people raise their hand, I'm glad you did. And what I mean by that is, I used to be a cigar smoker and I wanted to stop for many years. I couldn't stop until I became conscious. I realized why I was smoking. I was depressed, and that was a coping mechanism for me to get over my depression. When in reality, I was destroying my body. So a lot of people don't realize that they're doing things to themselves and they are destroying themselves, but they will say, well, I want to be this person, I want to be that person, but they are destroying themselves in the meantime by their actions. So first thing, to be conscious. So don't get yourself bent out of shape and say, well, Greg, I always say but, or I don't say but, I always say my stories, or I don't see anything wrong with it. Okay, that's fine. You might not think that, but do you do those things with a conscious mind? That's the question I'm asking you. And what I mean by that, because if I'm confusing you, I want to really elaborate this. If you're saying your story to people, I want you to say your story, then think immediately after, what do you expect to get out of your story being told? Is it for edification? Is it that you want sympathy? Figure that out. And once you see that, you're like, oh man, what am I doing? Do I want a hug each and every time that I tell my story? Do I want people to feel sorry for me because I'm a stroke survivor? What is that doing for your recovery? That's what you need to ask yourself. That's what I'm talking about, being conscious. And don't get upset if you keep on doing that, because you're starting to realize that you're doing wrong. Like any athlete out here, I know a couple of you guys are athletes. I know one person on here is an athlete. And if you are doing a particular exercise and you know that you're doing it consistently, then your coach comes and says, you know what, if you just tweak this just right here, your ability to do what you're trying to do will be so much better. And you consciously think about that, but oh, I didn't realize I was actually doing this. And each time you do it wrong, you'll realize that you're doing it wrong, and then you'll move forward from there. So that's what this actually is going to do for you. Once you start being conscious of what you're doing within your life, you can move forward. And if you still don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm going to give you another example. All right. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that you do? You might go on your cell phone, look at the news, look at your email, check on the weather, maybe get up, brush your teeth, go to the bathroom. But you do the same exact thing each and every day, like clockwork. You don't even think about it. And if you guys commute to work, you don't even think about the route. You just know where you're going. You're unconsciously doing it. But just one thing in that routine is off, your whole day is off. Am I right? So you're unconsciously doing things. Well, what I'm telling you is that once you start consciously think about what's going on with you, if you're depressed, they're saying, well, my life is not moving forward. I wish I could be better. Why can't I be like John? John got everything in his life. Sally has everything that she wants. There's a reason why John and Sally has everything that they want, because they desire to have it and they don't talk negative to themselves. By a raise of hands, have anybody heard of the book called The Four Agreements? It's a great book. If you guys have not read it, some of you guys raised your hand already. The author is Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's a great book. This has actually helped me to move forward in my life. And I'm just going to give you the 4 agreements right now, but I do recommend you read it or get it on Auto Tunes. You can actually listen to it on YouTube. It's a very short read, but here are the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your words. That is probably the most important thing, not just for other people, but for yourself. Stop doubting yourself. That's the first way for you to not succeed, is to doubt yourself. For the ladies out there, and I know I'm going a little bit deep on this, but if I came up to you and try to present myself as one of your suitors, and if I didn't have confidence, would you want to deal with me? You want a confident man. So my words better be impeccable. My words better be right. My words better be sure. Have confidence, right? 2, never take anything personal. If someone tells you you're stupid, that's their opinion. That doesn't mean that everybody thinks that you're stupid. If someone tells you you're ugly, are you going to keep that in you? I know people that have childhood traumas because what their parents have told them, and they still believe it to this day. And their parents probably been dead for 20, 30 years. And they still believe what they actually told them because they think they are that same person. Or they believe that that person was impeccable with their words and they didn't have any fault. And they might have a lot of trauma within themselves and they was passing it on to you and you received it. Don't take anything personal. 3, Never assume. Don't assume anything. Unless someone tells you what it is, don't assume. And a lot of times what we do, even with ourselves, we assume that this is it for our lives. This is the best it's going to be. And then we stop. We stop working out. We stop mentally preparing ourselves for the day, and we shut down. And the fourth and probably the most important one is always do your best. No matter what it is, always do your best. If you're getting up, get up in the morning and be your best. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing, what the weather is like, how much money you have in your pocket. Always do your best. Because you and I all know that today could be our last day. And you don't want your last day on this earth and you didn't try your best to do whatever you wanted to do that day. I know for me, when I was first had my rupture, I was stuck in my bed for 6 weeks. I couldn't walk. I didn't know that day was the last day I was going to walk for 6 weeks. Who wants to be that way? You want to do your best each and every day. So when you get on your deathbed, you could be okay and fine. Like, okay, it's time for me to go. I'm good with this. You don't want to live with regrets. So how do you become conscious? If anybody's asking, are you guys asking that? How do you become conscious in your day-to-day living? For me, I did meditation. And I dealt with this particular man. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have anybody ever heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? I love him. I love him. You know, but he had a saying in one of his talks. He said, people that have no time to meditate, meditation should take you about 15 minutes. And if you don't have no time in your day, you should meditate for an hour. You know, because it's so important for you to take time for yourself. Like, really think about that. How much time do you spend with yourself each and every day? Not worrying about the kids, not worrying about the job, not worrying about the dog, not worrying about your friends or family, but taking care of you. Like walking into an airplane, what do they tell you when they do the announcements before you take off? Make sure you put your oxygen mask on you first before you take care of anybody else. So it's the same thing for you to actually go on about your day. The first thing you have to do is take time for yourself. And once again, I'm not really concerned about your deficits because each and every one of us have some type of deficits. Some of them are invisible, some of them are visible. That's your personal thing that you have to deal with. What I'm dealing with right now is taking time for yourself and loving yourself. Because that's the most important thing. If you love yourself and taking time for yourself and being conscious of what you do day in and day out, knowing what food you put inside your body and how it affects you, noticing that if you sit on your phone all day for 3 or 4 hours and you realize, oh, my day has gone by, that's the reason why I probably don't have any time to do what I want to do for myself. Instead of saying, okay, I go to work each and every day to make a living and I don't have enough to actually feed my family or to go on vacations that I want to go on because I'm so dedicated to my job. Why don't you have time for yourself? Like, I'm gonna ask you guys this question and you guys please answer it as much as you can. So I'm assuming that each and every one of us had some type of brain trauma or a stroke. Am I right? All right. Some of you, or probably all of us, have pains each and every day. Do we? I know I do. Now, do you notice the parts of your body that feels good? Like, have you really thought about that? The part of your body that feel like, we notice the parts that have pain and we anguish over that all the time, but what about the part of the body that feels good? That feels great. Do you notice that? Or you take that for granted? So that's what we do with our being conscious. We take it for granted. We take it that our subconscious is going to take us in and out each and every day, and we don't have to worry about anything until it can't. That's when we worried about it. Why is that? Why don't we pay attention to our brain? The one thing that takes us from day in and day out, we don't take care of it. We don't worry about it. We don't consciously worry about the great things that it's doing for us, or our right hand that is so great that it can still write, or our eye that it can still see. Why don't we pay attention to that? That's what I do each and every day when I meditate. I close my eyes, I take deep breath, and I make I just come out my body. I guess metaphorically, I come out my body and I sense the great things inside of me. And they resonate, they shout at me. And that's how I start my day. But I do notice when I go and check out social media the first thing in the morning, or if I look at emails, or if I look at Netflix before I go to sleep at night, it travels along with me. Sometimes I might even have nightmares, or I might have a bad day because I set it off the wrong way. But once I take care of myself and start loving myself and being conscious of when I'm being mean to myself, my day goes much different. So that's what we have to do. We have to stop making excuses. Seriously, we have to stop making excuses for our recovery. Because once we stop doing that, we will recover. Not in the way that you might think. Because I don't know, me and Ella talked about this all the time, about the 2.0. I'm not bringing that up, Ella, so don't beat me up. But you're not that 2-year-old anymore. You do realize that you have different phases of your life. You're a toddler, you're a preteen, you're a teenager, adulthood, middle age, retired, elderly, so on and so on. But the crazy thing about it is that when we had our stroke, we don't realize there was a pre-you and a post-you of stroke. So your mentality is totally different. And a lot of times we're trying to bring ourselves back to that pre-us, when that doesn't serve us anymore. That pre-stroke person that you were doesn't serve you anymore. Gregory, how can you be so insensitive? It's true. Now, I could say probably about 90% of the people on this call, well, I don't know. You guys could tell me. By raise of hands, how many of you is this dedicated to stroke survival before your stroke? I know I wasn't. I didn't really care about it. I didn't think about it. Now that's the thing I think about each and every day. So my mindset has to be different than it was before, because before I didn't care about those things. So why do I try to be that person I was before? To me, that doesn't make any sense, because that person doesn't serve me anymore. The person I am now and the mentality I have to be right now is what serves me. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm not in the past anymore. I'm here. So be here. And in order for you to be better tomorrow, it starts right now. If you keep on beating yourself up, if you keep on saying the word but when it talks about how you can actually be better, and that baffles me too, when people say to themselves, but I can't do this, and they destroy themselves, and they want to, and it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me. You want to be better, you want to walk, you want to be independent, but you're using the word but. So you think like tomorrow that's going to change if you don't do the work today? It doesn't make sense to me. But I don't want to take up all the time because I have to hard stop at 7:45. So I want to stop here. So if you guys have any questions or comments that you want to ask me, please do. So I'll turn over to you, Julia or Ella, and let me know what you guys think.
Thank you, Greg. Go ahead, Ella.
No problem. Thank you so much, Greg. If Greg has a hard stop again in a few minutes, I loved it, but I will shut off my microphone. So if you'd like to unmute yourself and share, please do so.
If you don't mind, I'll jump in. And one Greg to another, you're absolutely right, because the person that you are after a stroke is different. And that's something I embrace, and I have always understood and appreciated, because I don't fight to try and get back to the person that I was, because that person doesn't exist anymore. I'm a different person now. So I just understand where I am now and where I want to go and how I work with that. And I like your point about getting up in the morning and doing the first thing. And I like the fact that you expressed doing meditation and mindfulness. It's so important. And that's something I do each and every day. So it helps me evolve. And that's part of my stroke evolution. So thanks for sharing, Greg.
Welcome, Greg. Love your name.
Right back at you, man. That's good.
June, go ahead.
Yeah, I find it quite fascinating about the before me and the after me. The before me was very determined. I was an athlete, competitive, and motivated, took action, didn't blame people, etc. So for me, the old me is still here, but in a different form. So I use the same factors that got me to pre-stroke in my recovery. So I use the same determination, the same motivation, but it's interesting because I want to be able to ski my 20Ks and ride my 30Ks, and that is probably gone. So for me, I'm now accepting the limitations of the new me, but not like I'm still this, like I can see why you and Ella would have quite a discussion on that topic. But I feel I'm the same me. I'm just having to be more aware, more conscious of my own personal expectations.
I received that.
Awesome. Thanks, June. Thank you. I also want to point out, Greg, I don't know if you saw in the comments, Tashari said that was really good and helpful towards my recovery. Thank you. So, awesome.
Oh, cool. You're welcome.
Greg, so I'm 2.5 years out from my stroke. I'm grateful in that my deficits are mainly emotional. And they're all emotional, actually. But I very often wake up and, shit's hard. Shit's really hard. But I've been following you for 2.5 years now on Instagram, and probably 5 times a week, I just go to your page and find something that just helps me in the moment. And I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for being real.
Thank you, man. That
it's super
really
helpful.
brings joy to my day. Thank you so much for saying that to me. I appreciate it. Now I'll keep on doing it, Lord willing.
Yes.
How do we find you on Instagram?
On Instagram, you can find me at AVM_superhero. I'm on YouTube as well as AVM Superhero. Matter of fact, I have a
Great.
show that I'm gonna have tonight. You can find me on YouTube on You're Too Young to Have a Stroke. It's the number 2, young, number 2 again, have a stroke.
Great, thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the presentation, Greg.
You're welcome.
I really feel too that part of the new me and old me is more accepting my deficits and working with them, because if you just if I'm so preoccupied with the things I used to love to do and can't do now, I don't try to do new things and find new things that I love.
Okay. But are you happy with your life? That's the question. Are you happy with your life? And do you understand that you still have a purpose here? No matter how we sound or how we look or how we feel, we still have life. And I just have one more thing, because I gotta go in 1 minute. I went to a nonprofit organization fundraiser gala for people that have AVMs, and they was giving me an award for being the AVM Warrior of the Year. And I had to walk through a corridor, and within that corridor, I was seeing pictures of children that died from AVMs. And that let me know right there that whatever happened to me is fine. Because we have parents that lost their children. I saw a picture of a 6-month-old child that died from an AVM rupture. So I'm good. I have no complaints. I'm not gonna put any negative things on me. Well, I have neuropathy right now. I can't feel my toes, but I'm good. Life is great. Every day is great. Every day above dirt is great. Everybody, Laugh at the Stroke, thank you guys so much for allowing me to talk to you guys. I hope that you guys invite me to come back again. I really love doing this stuff. And Amanda, I really appreciate you saying those kind words to me. That really made my day. And I thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Greg. I'll be following you.
Thanks,
So talk
Greg.
soon.
That was great.